Welcome back to Olives. In this video I will share with you how to attach an invisible zip with facing to a skirt. If you are new to this channel, thank you for stopping by. My name is Olivia, and if you are a returning subscriber, I appreciate you for always stopping by. Keep on watching and learning with Olives. Let's get right into this video. I've ironed an interfacing to the left side of the skirt, which is where I'll fix my zip. So here is what I did. I stitched a basting stitch from the beginning of the stitching line. That is where the zip will be fixed, and then I stopped exactly at where I want my zip to be, right? So this is how I've stitched it. I back stitched, continued to the end of the skirt. All right, so we know that that is where the zip will end, right? The length of the zip I want to use, it's 8 inches, but I left a space of 9 inches because I want to use this space to work easily with the zip. Right by the end, I'm still going to have my 8 inches. Here is my invisible zipper. I couldn't find a short one, so this was very long, about 24 inches. I measured the length I want the zip to be, and I cut it off, melted the edge. Now with the basting stitch, I'm not going to unpick it. I'll keep it that way and go ahead to press it open. The top part of every zipper is mostly flexible, so it folds nicely, right? Meanwhile, I measured exactly 8 inches and notched it so I know where the stitching will stop, right? So I'm going to align the excess I mentioned that is flexible or it's foldable right at the edge of my skirt, the starting point of my skirt, and that is how I'm going to pin it. Okay, so the excess is going to help to knitting the edge of the skirt with facing. Okay, so it goes this way. I'll align the teeth of the zipper with the center, that's in the stitching line. Right, so I'm going to use my hand to feel where the stitching line is and make sure I align the teeth right on the stitching line. Okay, and I'll move on to be pinning as I align. Recall that I left a total space of 9 inches while I want my zip to stop at 8 inches, right? So since I've notched where the 8 inches will stop on the zip, I'll stop stitching right on the 8 inches. So here I'm trying to stitch the edge of the zip together with my allowance. It's a way of just tacking the zip onto the zip allowance down. Okay, and this is how it looks like. That's the edge of the zip. All right, so the next thing is to unpick. This is why you need to stitch with a basting stitch, so the unpicking will be very easy, all right, and stress-free. So I'll move on and then stop at this point where I have my back stitch. Okay, now at the edge, that's where I cut off the excess of the zip. I decided to neaten it, so I cut a strap of 1.5 inches and I stitch it just like you see, and then I decided to turn a lay like this and fold again. So it's a way of me binding the edge and also being sure that the slider will not come off at any point in time. Here I've made a top stitch and trimmed off the sides, and this is how it looks like. I can easily move the slider knowing well that it wouldn't come off. Now I'm going to use a pin to stabilize the edge of the zipper onto the skirt so it doesn't move while I make my second stitch. So I believe you can see that I've opened the zip, right? So I'm just trying to pin the sides in place again, even though I made a stitch at the side. All right, and I'm going to begin by stitching the zip, the actual teeth of the zip onto the skirt with the help of an invisible zipper foot. So with this, I'm just going to open up the zip with my finger. I'll open the teeth of the zip to help the zipper foot to move easily. After stitching one side of the zipper, I'll stitch the other side as well. Remember that I am going to end at 8 inches, which means that I'm going to have about 1 inch space. Without leaving this 1 inch space or a little space, you end up struggling to move up the slider. Right now the slider is at the lower part of the zip. At this point, after stitching, I zipped up the zipper, and then I decided to make sure that everything aligns, especially the part that has been joined. Then I'll move on to stitch the second part of the zipper. Very important to make sure that everything aligns, okay, so you don't unpick much. Currently, this is what I have. With that 1-inch space I spoke about, I just removed the zipper out like this, and I'll just zip it up just to close it. Right now, I'm sure that my joints are well aligned. At this point, the slider decided not to move up, which means that there is a stitch on the teeth, right? So the slider says I'm not going to move until you remove that thread from there. I'm just going to take it out of the way for the slider to just move easily. So far, this is how our zipper looks like, and it's good. It's a good progress. I believe you can see that the excess of your zipper is flying. So this is what we are going to do. That space that is left out, we are just going to pull out the zipper from the wrong side, and this is how it looks like. If we are sure that whatever stitch we've made is right, we can move on to close that 1-inch space we've left with a zipper foot. A zipper foot will make your life easier at this point. Okay, you just place it and stitch, back stitch. Having closed that opening, this is how it looks like. I can barely recognize where the zip has actually stopped. Now we are fully done. Last step is to re-stitch the excess of the zipper. That's the end that is flying onto the zipper allowance, which is what I've already done, so it doesn't fly, right? You see that it is stable. Okay, so the next thing is to move on to attach the facing. I hope you are ready. So this is not good for my skirt waistline to be fraying, so I need to use my facing to finish it up, right? Okay, so with the skirt, I stitch one side and fix the zip at one side. Same applies to the facing. Now I'm going to align and pin the waistline of both the skirts and the facing together. I'll open the zip up and flip the zip allowance this way. Now I have a plastic stopper from the beginning of the zipper, right? I'll stitch right along that plastic stopper, right? So I have to stop right at where the stopper is and not go beyond, right? So I'm going to go ahead and stitch round, and this is how it looks like. I stitched it from one end to the other. Since it's a curved area, I have to notch, right? Before I notch, I am going to grade, which is what I'm doing. I'm trimming off just one side of the allowance. There are two, right? I'm just trimming one and leaving the other. Grading will help your allowance to be less bulky. It also allows your allowance to sit well around your finished garment. Okay, so this is how it looks like right now, and finally I'm going to notch or snip through. The next stage is to understitch, so I'm just going to go ahead and understitch round. This is what I have after understitching. After finally understitching, I can't just leave the facing flying, right? So I have to knitting it together with the zip allowance. So I'm going to fold it like this, right? Fold it backwards just like this and pin it together. With the help of my zipper foot, I'm going to stitch along like this to the end. Also repeat the same thing to the other side, and this is how it looks like after stitching. I'll trim off the excess, the top part, to be less bulky, turn it inside out. After doing all of this, I'll move on to knitting the edge of the facing. Now this is what I did. I left about 1/2 inch on both sides of the facing. That means I did not start my stitching from there. Okay, so with this I can either fold in the excess like this, right, just as you see, and I'll top stitch at the right side, or I'll knitting round the facing and leave it like that and also stitch at the right side. But this time I'm just going to make a stitch in a ditch, right? I'll stitch in between the facing, and this is even a yoke, in between the yoke and the lower part of the skirt, which means that the stitches will be kind of hidden. Okay, I hope you learned something from this tutorial. Let me know your thoughts, your comments in the comment section. Please interact with me. You hardly do. Please do. Now, after top stitching, your facing will no more show outside, or it will not pop out. If you always have a problem fixing your invisible zipper, I hope this really helped you. Please like the video if you enjoyed it. Do subscribe if you are yet to. Turn on your notification bell to be notified always. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.